I'm here with Mr. Howard Sherman, of course, Bub, probably the most famous zombie in movie history. You know, in a movie like Day of the Dead, where most of the human characters, many of them are despicable, in this case, the zombies become rather heroic, and none more so than Bub himself. What's the kind of reaction you get from the fans? What do they seem to say about Bub? How they feel about him? You know, when they talk to you.
Well, it's really, I must say, I get a lot of very high praise, and it really means a lot to me. Because people are moved by the character. I think they're moved by, on the one hand, his response to the music when the doctor puts the headphones on and.
Showing some glimpse of former memories and, you know, human emotion, and there's something behind the dead stare that's living, that's, you know, a wisp of what once was, and that in a way you feel for the character, because you know he's trying to grasp onto something that was once there.
Well, there are still a few dim synapses still popping, apparently, and enough so that he's moved by Beethoven, and then again when the doctor is found, when he finds the doctor dead, he has this emotional response, which so I think the fact that you know, people adhere to the character, and of course, you know, you can never go wrong killing the bad guy at the end. I think the real high point of Bub's functioning, I mean the point where that exhibits really the most sophisticated bit of zombie intelligence, is probably when he salutes at the end, because that's nothing short of irony. And irony is a pretty high, you can't be a moron and experience irony, you know, so.
Well, I was going to bring up the salute at the end. That's one of the most, for a zombie, it's a rather triumphant moment, you know, that salute,
well, I think killing a bad guy and saying screw you is probably a triumphant moment for anybody.
Exactly. Even more so for a zombie, because that's quite an accomplishment too.
Well, I know they're really set upon. They're really misunderstood, and really nobody likes them very well. So.
And how often do you do these conventions? How many you plan on doing this year?
Oh, you know, they come up. I do, I don't know, a few a year. I don't do very many of them. It's
in this particular case, it's quite a grand accomplishment for the convention to get so many of the actors that were in all the Dead movies, all of them, including the new Diary of the Dead.
Yeah, well, it's always, you know, it's a good thing if you can get all of the zombie people in one spot, because that brings out the zombie fans.
Once again from Texas Frightmare Weekend here in Dallas, Texas, it is the infamous Joe Pilato. Of course, most of you guys recognize him as the nefarious Rhodes from Day of the Dead. Certainly one of the most iconic characters in the Dead series, I think.
And nefarious. We got two great words, iconic and nefarious. How are you folks? How you doing? Thanks for being fans. It's a great thing.
And you know, one thing about the character, and you know, as we talked a minute ago, I didn't want to, you know, dwell too much on Day of the Dead, because of course you certainly have other things you can talk about to the folks out there. But the typical questions you get, I'm sure, how many times over the course of this weekend have people asked you about the, you know, the rotten intestines in the refrigerator, and you know, how painful it was to have to endure the whole being buried under the floor with that stuff. I mean, is that something you get pretty regularly from the fans that come up to talk about the movie?
I have no idea what you're talking about. No, I'm teasing. Yeah, everybody, a lot of people ask, and it's good, because it's kind of folkloric legend about the film, and everybody wants to know, and it's a good story, and I don't mind telling it, and it kind of makes it more fun and more interesting, and it just shows you that genre fans do their homework, so stay in school.
Well, George Romero said on I think a documentary on the Day of the Dead DVD that it's as far as of course at the time the trilogy, and now what we're into what would you call a 5-part series. You either love it or you hate it. Personally, nothing against Mr. Romero or any of the other movies, but Day of the Dead was actually my favorite of the.
Gunshot
yeah.
to me right here, so I don't want to get. I'm sorry. Day is what?
Day of the Dead. Day of the Dead personally is my favorite and I have not seen Diary of the Dead, and certainly plan on seeing that at some point in time. But of the 4 that I have seen, it's head and shoulders. Whether it was because the time it was made and the storyline, certainly my favorite of the 4 that I have seen.
Well, it's surprisingly, I mean, it's the favorite. We can't use trilogy anymore. You're right. I think it's a quinfecta. It's something. I can't remember what it was. Pentagon. Pentagram. It's surprisingly, it's a lot of people's favorite. Unfortunately, doesn't get written up much. I was just reading a review of Diary in the L.A. Times, and they were talking about George's body of work, and they named everything except Day of the Dead. And I'm like, hey, you guys need to be slapped around here.
Exactly.
But it's got a very loyal and very together fan base, and hopefully they'll just keep spreading the word,
Well, to kind of get close to wrapping things up here and getting off the topic of Day of the Dead, any other projects you've got coming up? Anything else from the past that you really are proud of as far as your body of work goes?
Well, I got something coming out called War Dog, and I'm waiting to start on a project called Dead. Of course, I'm proud of all my George films, Dawn of the Dead, and thanks to the Dario collection, the entirety of my scene was put back in, and I have a nice little my scene with Ed Harrison, Night Riders. It was nice to work with Ed. He's a great actor. And then, of course, Wishmaster and Effects, which finally got a release after sitting on a shelf for 30 years, which was, if you haven't seen it, it's a nice, not FX, but Effects, E-F-F-E-C-T-S, directed by Dusty Nelson, with John Harrison, Tom Savini, a lot of the Pittsburgh film family. And there's a great documentary about it called After Effects. Yeah, good stuff. And Pulp Fiction and all that neat stuff. You guys. I love you guys. You guys are the greatest fans in the world.
Well, let me ask you one final question. A website, anything that the folks can get to you online via anything like that?
They can get. I don't run it. Somebody else run it. It's called the Official Joe Pilato MySpace page, and I don't own a computer, but I guess I should invest in one. So send some money in, and I'll buy one. But yeah, you could check that out, and that's the Official Joe Pilato MySpace page.
Well, I'll tell you what, I appreciate certainly you taking the time to speak with us. It's Joe Pilato.
I deadpit.
Whenever you're making an appearance, wherever you're making appearances, make sure you stop by and say hello.
Say hello.
Take care, guys.